Cops slam a black teen's head into a judge's bench. The judge stands up, takes off the robe, and fights back. The gavel had just struck wood when the courtroom doors burst open. Two officers stormed in, boots stomping, eyes wild, hands already on their holsters. Their target was a 17-year-old boy standing silently beside his public defender. "Don't move!" Officer Griggs barked, his voice echoing off the high ceilings of courtroom 4B. The boy, Caleb Winston, didn't flinch. He'd already spent 2 nights in a holding cell for a crime he didn't commit. His wrists were still bruised from tight cuffs. Now, this? The judge looked up from the bench, startled. "Officers, this is my courtroom. Stand down." They didn't listen. Griggs shoved Caleb hard toward the bench. The teen stumbled. Officer Laramie followed, grabbing the back of Caleb's neck and slamming his head against the polished mahogany. A sickening thud silenced the room. Gasps erupted. The bailiff froze. Even the stenographer stopped typing. Blood slid down Caleb's forehead. The judge stood slowly. He was a tall man, African-American, late 40s, and carried himself like someone who'd seen too much to flinch anymore. Judge Langston Merrick. A Harvard Law graduate. A father. A man with patience until now. "I said, stand. Down." His voice didn't just echo, it thundered. But Officer Griggs, sneering, turned to him with a smirk. "With all due respect, Your Honor, this one's a threat. He matches the suspect in—" "Enough!" Merrick's eyes burned. He stepped from behind the bench, removed his robe, and folded it slowly over one arm like he was preparing for a funeral. Griggs raised a brow. "What, you going to file a complaint, Your Honor?" "No," Merrick replied, walking forward. "I'm going to stop you myself." He handed the robe to the bailiff. "Hold this." And then he moved. Judge Langston Merrick had once served in the Marines. That part of his life was buried under years of rulings and case law, but it hadn't died. Before Griggs could react, Merrick struck him square in the jaw with a precise, devastating hook. Griggs crumpled. Laramie reached for his taser. Wrong move. Merrick stepped in fast, twisted Laramie's wrist, and sent the weapon skittering across the floor. A sharp knee to the gut sent the second officer down with a choking groan. Caleb lay slumped by the bench, dazed but conscious. "You okay, son?" Merrick knelt beside him. Caleb nodded, breathing heavy. Yeah, just dizzy." The courtroom was chaos. Phones were out. People were filming. The judge stood tall, fists clenched, chest rising. Then, just as fast, he turned toward the crowd. "Call Internal Affairs. Call the U.S. Attorney's Office. Call every damn camera in this building because I'm done watching these kids get brutalized in my courtroom." That moment went viral before the hour ended. But it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. 2 days later, Merrick was suspended. The city called it a breach of judicial conduct. They didn't mention the part where the cops slammed a miner's skull into his own bench. The mayor's office issued a bland press release. The police department claimed it was a miscommunication. Caleb's charges were quietly dropped, but no apology came. Merrick sat alone in his home that night, watching the ceiling fan spin. He thought of the boy's blood on his bench, of all the cases before this, of all the warnings he'd given, the blind eyes he'd turned. Then he thought of the folder. It was buried deep in a fireproof drawer in his study. Inside was a sealed envelope marked, "Break only if system fails." Langston opened it. 3 weeks later, the city held a press conference. The mayor, the police commissioner, and 3 senior judges sat behind a long oak table. Lights flashed, reporters crowded the front. Then the microphones went live. "I have a statement," Judge Merrick's voice said. But he wasn't there in person. It was a pre-recorded video, played on every screen in the room. "3 weeks ago," his voice began, calm but cutting, "I was suspended for protecting a child from state-sanctioned violence. Since then, I've watched the same system twist truth and bury evidence." Gasps and shifting in chairs. "But here's what I didn't say. I've spent the last 5 years collecting sealed testimonies, case file irregularities, and internal whistleblower confessions. I have names, dates, body cam footage that was never logged, arrest reports altered after the fact. The camera zoomed in on Merrick's face in the video. And now, the world will see it all. Click. On cue, monitors throughout the city lit up. Every screen in City Hall, every television in the local courthouse, every YouTube and social feed flooded with uploads titled The Bench Files. It was a trove, thousands of documents tying city officials, prosecutors, and over 40 officers to a pattern of abuse, cover-ups, and false convictions dating back over a decade. The city panicked. Within hours, 3 resignations hit the newswire. 2 officers fled the state. And Caleb? He watched from his hospital room with tears in his eyes. "That man saved me," he whispered to his mother. "He didn't have to, but he did." A month passed. Langston Merrick stood outside the courthouse, not in robes but in a sharp navy suit. Reporters crowded him. "Are you afraid of being arrested? Do you think leaking those files was illegal? What's your end goal, Judge Merrick?" He turned, looked into the camera, and smiled, not warmly but with fire behind his teeth. "I didn't break the law," he said. "I exposed those who did." The Department of Justice stepped in. A federal probe opened. Merrick was invited to testify before Congress. He wasn't just a suspended judge anymore. He was a movement, a symbol of what happened when one man stood up, really stood up, and said enough. Because sometimes justice doesn't come with a gavel. Sometimes it comes with a fist. Disclaimer: this story is a fictional dramatization created for entertainment purposes only.